I'm gonna go ahead and call the Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board of Trustees meeting to order. At this point, we will be unable to take any type of action as we don't have a quorum. So what we're gonna do is change the agenda layout a bit and go ahead and hear presentations, as hearing those presentations will not require any action. Mr. Williams, would you like to?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have scheduled for tonight at the trustees' request presentations from those remaining submitters or those entities which responded to the RFP that was issued by the authority for the purposes of utilizing buildings within the Lakeshore Hospital campus. One of those, multi-specialty, we will need to hold until you're actually able to convene the meeting. But we also have the worship room and Remnant Ministries, both which submitted a response. And I think they're both represented here tonight. And so they're ready to tell you what their goals and objectives would be.
Can go in order. The worship room.
Can we go last?
Resident
We're waiting on one of our guys.
We're hoping somebody will make it.
Remnant Ministries.
Just want to say thank you guys for having us. Just thank the Lord to be able to be here and for you guys to hear us out and to be able to even be at this meeting. You know, so it's definitely a blessing. I've been sitting here through all these meetings for this while. You know, just kind of keeping us just watching. Some of it's been entertaining. Some of it's been very helpful learning. It's been really good. Just gonna cut to the chase real quick. I know that's what you guys want and want to hear about, but Remnant Ministries, just for all you guys, I want to give you a packet real quick. That will kind of so you can follow along with what I'm saying.
Thank
you. So as we're going, we're not exactly an established church yet, but we are in the process. The only thing that's going to be different is if you just slap a title on it. And church is much more than just a title or a position. So everything that's going to be about this is coming now. This is stuff already in the process. We're actually in the obtaining a 501c C3 right now, so that don't worry about that as far as it being an entity and if you had a right who to give it to or such like that. So, but Remnant Ministries, that's what we're calling it, and all it is a grown group of individuals, as you see on the package, striving to see growth in our community as we have had the privilege to grow up here, be a part of it, live in it, see what the good things and the bad things about Lake City. I'm sure a lot of us have. I mean, and no matter if you've been 50 years old or in my case 29 years old, or even in their case young, probably 18, not much has changed about it really, other than a couple more Chick-fil-A's or Wendy's or you know, whatever, or maybe a park that should have been done a little while back and now it's done. You get this. There's a lot of things that haven't really changed too much about this city. And one of those things though that plagues this community or plagues this city is a lot of what we've been seeing as far as like the violence, the drugs, you see even division, you see a lot of things, and then you got a church on every corner, and you would think some of those things would help, and they do to an extent. Obviously, there's more to it than just being a church, and that's what we're going by as we talk about who we are. So just giving you a preface of what Remnant is. We believe that God is calling the church within the church to come out. So the Bible says that he who has an ear, let him hear. He who has an eye, let him see what the Lord is saying, right? What the Spirit of the Lord is saying. So in those cases and in this time, you could still be a church or be in Christ doing things, but yet still not doing what God wants you to do or not responding to what he's saying. So we've seen a lot of the last shakeup with COVID and with everything going on. This society is finicky. Things are have showed us how topsy-turvy things can be in the midst of calamity, chaos, of things you can't plan for. But one thing that doesn't change is the solid rock Christ. And that's what we're standing on. That's what we're believing for. That's what we believe, that there's a spiritual dilemma in this city. And that's what we were talking about earlier. There's some great presentations from FGC, from the churches, from Meridian. They were great. I listened to them. They were good. But what I was hearing more about is just the emotional and the physicalness, things like that. We got a lot of those things. And not saying they're not good. They have their place and things. But if it's not done through him, then I feel as though we're not really addressing the real issue. So it says we wrestle against spirit and principality, not flesh and blood. So when I'm proposing you, what I'm telling you is, you have children, you are living in this city, you will have grandchildren. There is a war going on, whether you acknowledge it or whether you don't. And this is the time where God is recruiting forerunners, calling those out of the church to be the church, not just say we are the church, but to actually be the church in this time. So just to give you a rundown of who we are and what we're believing. So we're just a group of individuals striving to see growth in our community. Nobody really special or nobody who's really well known, unless you ask around the community. You ask around the community, you might find out from people who most people would overlook or most wouldn't take the time to talk to, right? So my name is Garrett Morrison. I wear a lot of hats. I've done a lot of things. Served on the youth team, served kids ministry, done some young adults groups, done some things with the worship room. Amazing people, awesome what they do. Did some things out in Lake Butler with Christ Central. Had the opportunity to learn and to see what God is doing. But really, the title, pastor, whatever, doesn't really mean much to me. It's just somebody who's hungry and thirsty after the kingdom and after God's own heart. I'm a basketball coach. I love basketball. Sports is one of my identities. It's one of the things that I take pride in, what I love to do. And it's a great way to unify. It's a great way to get people to work together. And I'm also a small business owner of a business called Everlasting Tech, something that it's been in the works now for about a year, but hoping that it's hoping and knowing it's going to take off and very soon, knowing that the Lord is good. But and then this is Destiny Evans, and I'm sure she can tell you a lot more about who she is than I could.
I am a mental counselor here in the city. I work with a lot of you guys as youth. Right now, I'm stationed in New Gen, so I have a lot of kids of the generation that we're working with. We work with case management there. I have a master's degree in that. I'm working on getting my doctorates in counseling supervision education.
Yeah, for sure. And then that's Austin Evans back there, right there. I'm sure you guys didn't see him. He's wearing the camouflage for a reason. Don't want to be seen. But he's here. He's game for it too. But he works in finance. He's really good at managing the budget as well as running a small online company from home. Some of the things I do, some of the things I've been able to do is I've been able to I stretch all across the place. Like I said, I'll coach basketball, I'll coach them at the church, I'll go to the community center and coach at RCC. I love to just get in the nitty gritty. I like to go anywhere and everywhere that the Lord would send me to really have a heart for people in general, just to see them progressing and doing well in their life. So with all these things, with these titles or whatever, really what's behind it, what we want to take away is that it's all what we're trying to do is just love people. Love people. Because now more than ever, people need to know their love. The why. That's what we have right here. Well, we'll give you the why. Lake City, Florida is in real need of revival, and we believe the area of Lake DeSoto and the Lakeshore Hospital is a prime candidate to bring about such change. This area is a hotspot with tons of potential that offers many activities for a wide range of individuals from different age groups, racial backgrounds, and different social classes. And we as Remnant Ministries have had the opportunity to see this firsthand since when COVID hit, when the hospital first shut down, just hanging out around here, and even going all the way back to the first week of January 2021. The first Tuesday, we've had a prayer meeting there every week. I've not missed all the way since January 2021, the first week. So we've been up and close upon this area, this community, from whether it was homeless people, from whether it was people who just got caught in a bad stage of life, needed help, whether it was somebody walking around, walking their dog. You see all types of activities, people watch around here. People exercise, people rollerblade, people fish around here, people work out around here. So it's a great hotspot. When I say hotspot, prime candidate to interact with all walks of life around here. And that's what we love about this area. We come out here, you'll never know who's going to show up. We don't count it by numbers, but we love the fact that you never know who you're going to interact with. And that's what we're in it for. We're in it to see hearts change and to see people come to Christ, right? And so just going to that, for Remnant Ministries, we have committed ourselves to dedicated prayer at the Darby Pavilion. We love that place. Every Tuesday since the very beginning of January 2021, and I've not missed a week. We have chosen this area due to having a special place in our heart. And during this process, we have developed a passionate connection for it and with it. We've had the privilege to reach people through our consistent efforts. During this time, we've seen the darkness that plagues our community, from the brokenness of drugs, homelessness, violence on full display. We're seeing many people, especially young people, perishing due to the lack of knowledge and due to the hopelessness, turning in many outcomes that are crippling their future. So if you recognize and looking around, a lot of people in Lake City right now are committing a lot of crimes, and there's a lot of young people dying, I feel, unnecessarily, due to the fact that they're just not having no guidance. Maybe they don't know that there is a future ahead of them. Maybe they haven't seen a better way. And in the Bible, the Lord says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. So maybe they just needed somebody to minister to. Maybe they just needed somebody to love them. Maybe they just needed somebody to pray for. Maybe they just needed somebody to talk to them, smile to them, give them something, right? Just something to keep them going one more day. Ultimately, to reflect the love of Christ, because that's what we're really trying to do, is get people to a spiritual transformation. But we'll do a wide range of things as well. But that's one of the things that we're God heart about, is seeing that. And we know Jesus can work through a lot of other things to get people to that. So we're also conscious of that. We want to be very, very intentional about giving him the glory and allowing his spirit and his power work through this community. And what's going on, Steve?
Hey, bud.
And like I said, we've seen a lot of young people perishing, a lot of young people just not having the right way to go, right? And that's what I love about them. You see, they brought the young people in. God is good. You never know how you can transform or change somebody's life. But throughout it all, we've been moving compassion on behalf of our community and have been privileged to witness mighty moves of God all year long. There is hope for our community, and we believe that begins with a generation who will not simply stand aside, but will be forerunners that are willing to get in the trenches and serve on the front lines. So we're not just here just to do it. We're not here to kind of experiment. We're here willing to take the risk, because that's how you spell faith, R-I-S-K, right? You got to be willing to step out. We believe this is something God genuinely calls our hearts to stand for and be in the gap for, to do. So it's a no-brainer. Have to do it. Our mission statement, right? God has given us a vision for Lake City and the Lakeshore Hospital that will serve as a lighthouse that will pierce through the darkness and permeate through all of Lake City. Remnant Ministries wants to work with the community to help improve their quality of life while implementing biblical perspective as well. So 1 Peter 4:10, as each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's various grace. We fully believe that we were placed in Lake City for such a time as this to help the Lord provide care for the people and help better their lives. We plan to use the main building and other buildings in connection to it as a church, but not just any church, but a church with the goal of offering community-centered programs and ministries that will address the spiritual, which that would be top priority, but the emotional and the physical needs of our community, which that has to come along with it as well, so people can see the love of Christ, but also so that people can be reached at all spheres and all walks and all points of their life. Somebody may not be a believer in Christ. That's okay. That's how love is love. Jesus is love. You're going to get love either way, right? And but we don't want to just be a church just to say we're a church and just have another 32 occupy every space. And you see that, and then still yet we're not seeing such radical transformation. But we're believing for emotional and physical needs of our community men as well. But while doing it, it will influence and teach the family and individuals new ways of life and needs of care, right? So we're going to get into practicality of how we would do that, as far as how would you impact, how would you reach other than just preaching a sermon or, just telling them about Jesus, which is powerful, those words are life. But there's many ways. Jesus was compassionate. Jesus was moved in his heart. But Remnant Ministries' goal is to create a one-stop shop for our communities and major needs. We want to create a place that they feel adequate and equipped in providing for their own needs while creating new avenues for their future. We want to create a I do, we do, you do environment and hope to change the struggling, independent nature of our community into a thriving, working one. Our goal is to build and maintain the program for the view of a disciple of Jesus, a teacher, a mental health counselor, coach, and a longtime resident of Lake City. We desire to create a culture of camaraderie with an infectious mindset that others can take pride in knowing that they are able to be part of something bigger than themselves. So sometimes even if somebody isn't too hip to what we're doing, when you're a part of a team, when you're a part of a mission that's bigger than yourself, it gives you purpose, it makes you happy, makes you want to wake up, gives you a sense of fulfillment, knowing that you're contributing to the greater good of your brothers or your sisters or to your own community. We don't see a lot, we have things like that, but our goal and our view is to see that in a grand scale wise. So like we're talking about, we will recruit people from the community. Obviously, it's not going to be, not one person or one team is big enough to do the job. It would even come down to asking you guys, asking these guys, asking whoever, as we list out resources and people we've had the opportunity to fellowship with and really share some of the similar thoughts and visions for the city. So for hospital level 1, our plan is to use this floor as the main church, maybe a social hall for the services and worship. We plan to use the cafeteria for food and soup kitchen, and for our local homeless and low-income community, and to provide lunch for those who are willing to pay their way. We plan to use the front desk area as maybe like a coffee shop or like a gift shop, such as for others to be able to come in there and get situated, as well as just eat, but also take care of things. The coffee in the morning tastes good, gets me going. I know everybody in here, whether they're guilty pleasure or raise their hand, some form of caffeine is being indulged in. But we plan to use the back area as just straight with large vision. We're thinking so big that the only way that this could possibly happen is if the Lord himself does get involved. So we're thinking music recording area, media for the church, graphic design area, and staff member offices. So we're thinking big. We're thinking as in terms of people will be able to come in there and use their gifts or their talents that have been deemed not so much spiritual, but have been coined as just talents or hobbies. But the Lord says he's given talents to different individuals, different talents, right? So somebody can come in there, or if they wanted to, and if they're in the church or they're in the community and they're working, God can use that. You can come and record music. You can come and passionately do what you want to do. So we're seeing it like that too, as far as it's going to offer a wide range of opportunities and appeal to different people. During the week, the other offices on this floor will be used for targeted case managers, offices, campus security, employment assistant office, and supervisor offices as well.
So for the target case management offices, I want to have places for our mental health to go to, our and we'll go into where those are as well, but kind of have those on the main floor where way it's easy access during the week when we're not having the church services, and that way they can get there and get whatever the help they need. But I want those to kind of be the main hub. That way they can kind of plant the resources that we do have and work with those that we don't have, kind of outreaching to other places and communities, like I said, working with everybody else that's in the community. Our level 2, we're wanting to use as a substance abuse and recovery area. This is where we're going to have like AA meetings, individual counseling sessions for those people in the substance abuse area, providing for their needs. They as well will be able to use the amenities with the case management, finding maybe jobs for anything that they might need as well. Level 3, we're working, kind of deciding where we want to put that exactly, but level 3, we're talking about using as a homeless care area. This would provide them a certain amount of time that they are allowed to stay there. They can get clean, they can get their clothes washed, they can be taken care of. And this also will link them with the case management, so that way they can get those job opportunities. They can find ways to get education, kind of working with FGC, see if we can find ways to get them in there, maybe provide a program for them as well down down the line to kind of get them moving and not where they are currently. The last floor, we're talking about using for mothers and their children area. This is where they can go if they're abused or struggling moms, based off whatever needs that we have set. They can get clean, they can have their clothes washed on a certain amount of time that they're allowed to stay there. They also have to work with our case managers to find ways to help them with housing, additional mental health. They also are required to have a therapist of some kind, which we're also gonna have ready for them. And we're wanting to hopefully work with healthcare programs and housing programs, that way we can find a place for them, we can take care of the needs. Kind of like we said, the one-stop shop, get them out of there, that way we don't hopefully have this problem continue. We have also what you guys are calling the PT building. Because it's already set up where it's split, the kid side and the adult side, we want to kind of stick with that, where the adult side during the day will be our adults mental health center. That's where they'll have counseling set up. We'll have the program set up where they can have like group settings, all those types of things that will be right there. And then during the afternoon, after school, the kids will have their side in the back, and that's where we'll have the kids group settings. That's where we'll have their counseling settings, so that all those offices are already set up and ready to go. So it'd be really easy to move into. A lot of that too, we're planning on trying to make sure that our kids, if they are needing it and are meeting those requirements, we're wanting to link them with those case managers. That way they can continue to get that care and the additional housing if needed, or the food if needed, and try to meet whatever their needs are, so that we can keep them going and growing and going where they're supposed to go. And not kind of falling behind like we're seeing a lot of here in Lake City. Our large building, I think it's the women's area now, I don't know if that's what you guys have, but that's where we wanted to put our youth program. We're wanting to have an after school program there. During Sunday services, we're gonna have that be where our kids are at for children's church, and the top story is gonna be our teens area. But during the rest of the week, we're gonna have after school programs. We're gonna be working with Mr. Vic Cole to establish an agriculture portion, that way they can learn about how to grow their own food. We're wanting to try to get sports programs going, which is a big thing that needs into trying to have like the basketball, those things, everything established. We're wanting to possibly work with the Big Brother Big Sister program, getting them back in Lake City. Maybe they could be a part of it too, as well as the art program. That's a huge thing that I see now, because I work with a lot of kids in Camelot program, and they're awesome, but we don't have that here in Lake City to link those kids to. And there's so many kids that are really good at it, but they're just falling behind because they don't have that passion to kind of keep them driven. But our teams will be the top. We want to have like an anti-bullying program as well that we're going to try to put in there. That might not be so keen for the kiddos, but I do want to have it a part of the curriculum and what we're working with the kids. We're also going to have some tutors in there working with the kids to get their homework done. So while they're there after school, they can get that completed and not be a problem for the parents. And pick them up. And
Yes. And to go back to like the agriculture aspect of it, like we're saying, offering programs, activities for kids to learn practical and life skills, kind of bring out some workshops sometimes and have people come out there and speak to them. But the agricultural part of it, Vic Cole, he runs the thrift, kids feeding kids thrift store. Heavy in the community, Mr. Cole. That was his dad, really big, was at Richardson Middle School. One of my teachers, so this is kind of cool just to see how he's continuing to carry the baton and the torch for his dad, and to help the community as well, the kids. But it would teach kids how to grow their own food. Like I think Meridian was talking about bringing something, we were talking about growing stuff and along those lines. So we plan to do that as well, and have gardening, all things like that. So it's not just like, hey, we have this, but if that's not your interest, then go find it somewhere else, right? There's going to be different types of things, with wide varieties, because not everybody's the same. So with that, and then that small building, obviously, like you said, we're looking at the kitchen. The kitchen's pretty much intact, spotless, awesome. Through the tour, it's really, really nice. Like I was like, wow, how did they even keep up with this? They got all the equipment, all this and that. And so looking at the back small building, the one over there, maybe the cart one, whatever, however y'all decide to play out or whatever. But we're willing to work with whoever. We work with the worship room already in terms of they just help us. If we find somebody or have somebody has a need, we turn them to them, take them to them. They've helped me out countless times, helped me to get somebody else help. So I think that, and so with that building, we were saying providing a week's worth of food for those that apply and clothing twice a month to those who apply. And possibly, and I know how the way it shakes out, working with the worship room with them as well, because it's already been a key to us been thriving before this meeting ever happened. It's already been things that got us concerned in our hearts, conversations that we've had for really bettering this community. So these are things that have already been kind of influenced, but like I said, however that shakes out, however we plan, if there's an opportunity to merge, which might possibly be, determine on what gets established and everything, but just know that the kingdom will be thriving, will be working. So we'll use that for as far as that. And then storage building, I have a business and Everlasting Effect, that's where I would be doing building, screen print, office area, shipping area, merch sales, and that's where I would put it. Very back where all the storage is, or where that day we went, there's a bunch of iPhones. But and then additional building, low income dental program, we have that with possibly, I heard you guys, there's some things you were talking about, but I wasn't too sure. But you were also talking about possibly doing something with this building, as far as are we gonna give it away or stay on it, what's that? There's a local woman in our community who goes by the name of Consuelo Sharon, wonderful woman. Terrific woman, has a heart, and she has an organization called Dental Hope for Children. It provides missionary trips that aids and free dental treat for kids in other countries that can't get that type of access. But she's also now have taken it, and God's opened the door for her to be able to do that here with low income. So we're in partnering with her, and I'm sure she can get linked over anybody, everybody willing to help support that, because I mean, how many people just have a bad toothache or something, but they just don't have the money, and we can restore somebody's smile or their mouth. That's you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised that could really do something for somebody. So we have plans also to work with her. That'd be somebody we'd link up with and do it already, whether this happens or not. Making them up with her, that's somebody we're gonna recruit, bring abroad, and maybe hopefully offer put her in a place, maybe if she needs a different building or an expansion like that. But also she will be in connection to the program for these people that are unfortunate or probably going through this applying, housing, and all this, trying to get on their feet, but just can't catch a break. Can't just spend $200, $300, $1,000, but maybe with her tools and resources. That can be very doable, very possible. So, and then additional requests, I don't know, what is the helipad? Is that part of the game, or is that off limits?
Helicopter.
Yeah, the helipad, yeah.
I think he was asking a question to you guys. Is that a part?
Well, obviously, the helipad is no longer operated by the hospital, but we do keep it certified because it is used by rescue copters who may be called by other entities.
Okay,
So it's to be maintained for that purpose.
that is fine. That is fine. I was thinking about that, so I was gonna hold off on what I was gonna say. But we do we would be asking though. I know you were mentioned a property or area or a field over there that might be in play too as well. Was that correct? About over there.
The lots over by
Yeah, the
thing.
lots. Yes, sir. I was possibly seeing or thinking about, whether we get on board, or I want to see a rec area. I want to see a community center, one that can help with a lot of the kids, because we used to have the rec center itself, not emotional more. We used to have the boys club. Nobody's really using it no more. So I think that's another thing too for our youth and for kids that need something to do. Maybe there's some activities to do. as far as something to keep them preoccupied and, sometimes just keeping them out of trouble. But I could see that being like a gym that can host various activities, even events. You do a lot of stuff with that, maybe like even, for example, to generate money, you do AAU basketball tournaments through there. Or you can do all types of things where you can just host hobbies such as cornhole, pickleball, volleyball. You can give them something to look forward to. And what we do have, the closest thing to that I like, that I do enjoy going to, is the community center where Mr. Mario Coppett runs it. Really great guy. He has the same vision for this community to see it better, to see something bigger than what it is. And I know he'd be fully on board to do something like that. And just to see it like that, just to open up opportunities for these kids and for all of us to be able to, give them something to do. Really. And while providing, it can be a central hub for basketball operations for youth and adult leagues, a training facility used by local schools as needed. So CHS could come through, LCMS or RMS or other schools, they could provide as like an outlet for them as well. Give me something where you get that community about different people and different parties are using as far as that. And there are people on the rise. Look at the city like we're in. Some cities get that notoriety of pipeline. And I think we can generate things like that for our youth and give them a chance for like something to be pushed. We got the soccer field, right? We got the soccer fields. That's awesome. People love that. So many events, so many people use it. But something like maybe a gymnasium where there's a pipeline. And there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who I know, will work together to do things like that. Would come together, volunteer their own free time, who already train kids, who already are putting them in position, just give them something to hope for, something to dream about, because they don't have that avenue there. They just don't. They just don't. And it's unfortunate. And I'm not saying, I don't know where that would play into, but I would really lobby, really clamor for a community center, a rec center for sure. I think we definitely need something like that. So I was just asking about those lots, never know what doors God may open. And I think he's gonna open some big ones. But the how, right? And this will take up the last portion of our time, is to accomplish the mission. We plan to work and create a unified mission by recruiting like-minded individuals to come alongside to accomplish this overall goal. Some of these individuals, facilities, Pastor Clyde Douglas, the Community Revival Center, Crystal Hare at Camp Anderson, really big with the youth, has a great thing going on. There's a pipeline, there's where kids can get plugged in. The worship room, great people, awesome. Uphand can vouch for them. Lake City Humane Society, and they can come in and help as well. And we can help them and volunteer. Christian Service Center, Lutheran Services, Saturate Lake City, Pastor Michael Childs is an awesome individual. That was some events down at the pavilion. Really nice guy. Pastor Keith McDuffie at Higher Heights Deeper Depths, a guy from Jasper, doing some big things, awesome moves in his territory, in his little city as well, believing for the miraculous, as we all should be, especially with the times we're in, with the kids that are at large. Pastor Travis Buchanan at City Church, awesome guy. Go there most of my Sundays. Really cool dude. Is involved in the community. Just did their back to school bash. Is willing to work, willing to team up, willing to create programs for the kingdom, not just for his church, but for the kingdom. And that's what we're getting. We're trying to get our mind of thinking for, is the kingdom. Pastor Mark Cady, CFC Christian Fellowship Church, Ramona Park Church, Pastor Terry Shiver, Christ Community, Pastor Chad and Aaron Rogers at Wellspring Church, Brian Dix at Hopeful Baptist, like we said before, Lit Cole, Consuelo Sharon, and John Duggar out in McClenny. They have a nice thing going with their church. It's called Kingdom House. But nonetheless, that we hope that you too, you guys as well, can believe in the vision for our communities and for our overwhelming community. And I'll leave you with this statement right here. Jesus, right before his last supper, told his disciples, go and get a donkey for me, right? So he tells them, go to the man, like, well, who are we going to go to? And does he even know what we're going there for? He says, don't worry about that. Just go tell the man that you're in need of the donkey, that the master has use for it. So my thing I want to leave you with is the master has a need for it and the use for this building, and I hope you guys can partner along and see that vision as well. And that's what we have. If there's any questions towards that, we'll take them. I don't want to leave you with no question marks.
Questions, comments?
I've got just a couple. You plans very well laid out. Besides you, Mr. Morrison, and Ms. Evans, Mr. Evans, how many other employees do you have?
As far as employees, we don't have employees. We're just individuals that work our day jobs that come together, dedicate our own time. But the resources that we've listed here, as in the end, with the people that from the community, people that are willing to come in. Like I said, it's going to take a team effort, and it won't just be one church that sustains it. I might just be the hub, but it's going to be many hands in it, many people coming together. Like I said, we're thinking kingdom so much more than just one particular person. So we got a young adults group with many people willing. So as far as like the physical needs, we talked about this before. All that needs is somebody who has a willingness, a heart, and compassion to help somebody. That can be right there. Just if you want to feed the homeless, or if you want to do a food pantry or clothe somebody, that right there just requires a willingness. So that right there will have individuals for that. Emotionally, yeah, that's her thing. That's what she does. You got to know your lane and stay in that lane. That's not something I do. I'm sure I do it unknowingly at times when I'm ministering to people, but that's what she specializes in, and she's really great at it.
With my side, I have a lot of people that I work with, a lot of people that I went to school with, that I've kind of kept up with, that are willing to jump on the vision too. We've kind of already explained what's going on. I have one that actually finishes Friday, and she was already bugging me today, want to know when we can get started. So we definitely have a lot of people that are very hungry to help our kids, because we see a huge neglect in our area, because the resources that we do have are so, they're good, but they are so overburdened and have so much going on already that we can't send them there, or we can, and it's going to be on a almost 2-year wait list is what I got yesterday from one of my kiddos. So it's one of those that we definitely can find you some people. We definitely, on my MCAT or the mental health side, we got them, but the substance abuse, I have a lady that she's currently working through an online program, but she has her MCAP and everything, so she's already ready to go for the substance abuse side of things. So we can definitely jump them on there. We got some people that be willing to jump out and get on our side once we can.
So in reading in between the lines,
Ship it.
all of the volunteers are volunteers and do it for the good of the Lord and the community. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you give me in your vision for the hospital, can you give me your vision a little bit deeper as to the number of individuals that would be occupying that facility, and for about what length of time would they be there? I know you had referred to the different levels. Could you just give me a vision of what I would see there?
With our mental health side, I definitely, I think there was 5 offices on either side. I could be wrong. So each one of our counselors that we would have occupying an office can have 20 students or 20 kids for their clients, and then the adults the same thing. They can have 20 each, or actually they can have 40. I'm sorry. So that would already be, if we had 5 counselors in there seeing 40 patients a piece, then it's quite a few that we can kind of already get in there just with that program. The substance abuse, we probably would be starting out small. I think at this time we're looking at possibly like 12, but we're wanting to kind of build from there just so we can kind of get our wits about us and kind of keep going up. I mean, the homeless side of the things, that would be a little different. I think they're wanting to set up rooms and beds in there. So as we build, we're wanting to get up to have every room that's on there in the floor to be equipped to hold a person in there. That way they have their own space and they have their own little amenities that's there. I can't remember how many rooms there was, but in that floor. So we're wanting to use kind of along the same layout that you guys already have, and trying to set it up where we can take care of them with their needs and stuff.
Yeah, and she's also a volunteer over there that's willing to go to work, serve, and her passion is actually to do soup kitchens and things like that. It's hard to find people who say that's their passion. Nonetheless, I'm just doing a job. So we're recruiting and bringing people on board that have a desire to do these things and not just doing it just to do it. So, you know, there's room for that where people transition as they start to realize how good it feels.
So all of the facilities that you're requesting would be 24/7, 365?
The counseling would not be, it would just be during the daytime. The homeless would be 24/7. The women's center would be 24/7. The kids would just be during the afternoon after school, and then on Sundays when we have it for the kids services. And then the other building, the food building, would kind of be up to them, so it'd probably be just during the day hours. So I think the only ones that would be 24/7 would be the homeless and the women's center area. That are willing to do it.
And then I assume there would be volunteers on the homeless portion of it to manage it 24/7, 365.
Yes,
And you would have volunteers lined up to do that.
yes. We got, like I said, we got people who are willing to come aboard. Like I said, we got people already in this room that, like we said, however it goes, already envisioning what this will look like. A lot of these resources we named in the back. It's not, one thing about the church community, it's easy to rub shoulders and to find people. And we've found tons of people, but what we're asking, it's more of when the things begin to materialize, then you can start to get the volunteers like that. And then it wouldn't be too hard to occupy those spots and make people to start doing that. And then on top of the spiritual level on that, anybody that really holds an anointing, really, the Lord's chosen all of us, but you know, only a few answer that phone call and say, hey, I'll go. And there's hearts all amongst this community, not just us, other people. You can find them anywhere, any neighborhood, any block, and they'll be willing to go to work. But we do have some people that we've broke bread with, we've had the opportunity to discuss and speak with, such as Michael Childs, Travis Buchanan, Matt Worshipman, one of my good buddies. Like I said, different other people, just a lot of other people, but also giving people who are no names, people who most would be overlooked, opportunities to serve and help, right? So don't get caught too much in big names because it's a community thing, and most of the time Jesus used the unwise things to confuse the wise. So there'd be a lot of people may not even have a good name, but yeah, have a good heart. But then there are some names that come along and they have resources as well. So that's why we said ourselves, way too big. They can't be done. Even with just the community help, way too big. But with the Lord's help, but not by strength, not by might, but by spirit, and with other individuals that are willing to do it. Yeah. What's impossible?
Thank you. I don't have any further questions, Mr. Chair.
Garrett, I know you're aware of this. You've been in attendance at a lot of our meetings, but when you're looking at the campus, the three main buildings, the three ancillary buildings, I'm not including the wood structure because that's already out of the mix. When those are fully operational, you are north of $1.25 million a year in operating cost alone, and that doesn't include major repairs.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure we throw that out there and everybody understands, because they are expensive to operate. Nothing's too big for our Lord. I get that, believe me. But it is a lot of money and a lot of responsibility, and
Yes, sir.
it needs to be out there where people know that.
And I'm glad you did that just from your job and just putting in all the information there. But like we said, man, just going forward, there will be giants that occupy the land. Just getting the building or the facilities is one giant. Then, like you said, doing the repairs, going through the hoops. There's so many giants, but yet, and even in your own life, you'll experience that. You slay one giant, there's another giant. This is the promised land we feel. We feel as though like God like to possess the land, and I could come back with the report of 10 spies and say, hey, this is too big. You can't do it. Not enough money, not enough resources, not enough finances. Or go with the report of the Lord and say, hey, two people, we can do it. That's what we have. We have faith. So that's all we have. It's paid.
Our mental health programs would be making money for little insurance and based off income, based off those that don't have insurance. But our case managers will be working to get those that don't have insurance set up with that. There also will be profit from the kids program, which is gonna be based off income as well, what they fit with. And then there's a lot of grants and a lot of things that we kind of been filling out with and discussing with a personal friend of mine that is talking, so I could make some somewhere, it's based on.
Like I said, there's some help coming from the people that are involved in the community as far as the school board. Miss Elizabeth Porter, she's a awesome person as well. Help out, ask her questions, see things that we don't see, because we all got some blind sides going into this thing. And, you guys are kind of as you come into these meetings sometimes, but more than ever, like I said, we're asking if you guys can come along for this.
We appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Now that we have quorum, we'll bounce back up to the top of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? You mentioned something about what special meetings are.
Yeah, I would like to make a comment regarding multi-specialty research associates at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman. And also, I would also like to have a brief conversation about the RFP for legal services before you adjourn tonight.
Those changes, additions, to the motion.
So say we need a motion to update the agenda. So move.
Got a motion.
Second.
Got a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Public comments, Ms. Lindley.
You mentioned something about the proposal for legal services. Can I bring up something when that pops up?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When is this board going to ask for an AGO opinion on the legitimacy of this board? And for those who don't know, one of the board members is supposed to be a physician on staff at the hospital. Someday it shall, it's in the enabling legislation. If there's no hospital, there cannot be a physician. Therefore, that is the reason I feel this board is illegally constituted board, and there's 4 members, but there's no position. And the board needs to ask for an AGO opinion. And the other thing, Dale brought it up about the cost. Again, those who have asked for the building have to understand the purpose of the Lake Shore Hospital Authority was to provide indigent care. And this authority cannot subsidize, even though these items feel really good. It's not within the enabling legislation to provide these other services. And the last thing, what's the update in connection with Meridian and Gateway College? Are you going to update us on that, Dale?
Yes.
Okay. When will you update us?
The updates are on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comments? Inside the room, anybody on Zoom meeting? No, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion to second, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Just really, we'll introduce the next presenter of the season.
Yeah, if I may, by comment, multi-specialty research, I don't think there is a representative here from multi-specialty, but we have had some conversation with them up until this afternoon. to sort of get directly to it, multi-specialty, in order to locate on the campus, is in need of some specific space. And that specific space involves the hospital and the old ER, that area. And it's just because of the types of services they provide. So in conversations with them, what we've learned is other buildings, such as the Women's Center, the PT building, they don't lend themselves to what they need or want to do. They were in hopes initially when they submitted that they could potentially do a partnership, such as if the college had been chosen to take that building, potentially with the college and et cetera. So what we're trying to do is to see if there is if there can be some form of partnership between those that are trying to use the hospital and multi-family. So for example, if they decide, or if you decide to contract and do transitional VA housing, can multifamily occupy that? If you decide that you're going to allow one of the faith-based groups to use it for community outreach, can they work with them to occupy that space? And so until we learn more and we can put them together and see if there's a potential partnership, we have to consider multi-specialty as an option, but one that still needs to be vetted. There's just not enough information known for them to come at this time. So we're working with them, and we're certainly trying to help them, and we certainly believe that they would be an asset, particularly to the healthcare aspects. But until we know more about who's going to occupy that building, it's kind of difficult to put them to complete this particular presentation. So again, we had conversations up until the very end of the day today. Certainly don't want to close the door on them by any means, but I certainly understand their position. It's not difficult to understand. So that's where we are with multi-specialty. Okay, that's the,
ER specifically.
yeah, the only physical location over on that entire campus that makes any sense for them is that space. And when you understand what they do, the services they provide, how they work, et cetera, it makes perfectly good sense. So we'll continue to stay in touch with them. We'll continue to, determine if there's partnership, affiliations, and et cetera that are available. But that is the only space that works for them.
Worship approved?
For giving us the opportunity to present. I know we've been to many of the meetings. What this is that she's passing out right now is our original proposal that we had given several months back. So got a chance to look over it, see some of the vision and buildings that we were interested in. One thing I would like to do is start with prayer, because we know that God, his hands on it. So, Jesus, we just thank you, Heavenly Father, for your plans for these buildings and these facilities, that they will be fulfilled in this city. There will be a bright and shining light for the world to see. We just thank you, Father. I believe, like Garrett was saying, God has a plan for something. Nobody can stand against it. So with that, I'm going to proceed with where we came from. We started a little before COVID with a warehouse building on 162 Northwest Ridgewood Avenue. Primarily the place where we were meeting for worship, but then we also had people coming in off the streets, and immediately saw the need for clothes and food. So we took preparations and have a pretty large space where we have clothing. We've given out over 1 million pounds of food. I think it's almost 2 million tons of food in the last 2 years. And I've seen the need where people come through our doors, need clothes, need a shower, need resources. Then we also like to help people move beyond that. And we've seen the need for counseling, housing, and everything else. My wife has some things on that area that she'll elaborate on. April.
Okay, I'm April. So, yeah, we did start out just doing it. His parents own the warehouse and we were gonna do some grassroots worship nights, but as things grew, our focus didn't start out on food, clothes, hygiene, all that, but it turned into that. And we quickly saw that there was a need for that in this community, much more than I ever realized. So we ended up getting, like you said, the food, we started getting pallets of clothing. And when you're helping those in need, you can't help but notice the need for the mental health resources. The rehabs, the assistance for those aging out of foster care has been a big thing on my heart. We have a passion to see people break whatever toxic cycles they're experiencing, get the help they need, and be empowered to stand on their feet. Right now, when someone is serious about rehab, we usually have to take them to another city. And there's great programs, we've seen success in that, but we would love to see more local options when someone is serious about the rehab. Whether it's homelessness, food insecurity, rides for people to get to work, medical appointments, we want to see everyone reach their full potential, both mentally and physically. And Destiny is an awesome mental health resource. One thing we love to do is find niches in the local community where people that already have things in motion that are working well, partner with them and help support them rather than recreate the wheel. I know indigent care is an important priority, and I believe that there's enough space there to share, kind of, somebody mentioned shared space with other resources that are important to the community. A while back, I started researching options for a mobile shower unit, and my thought was that it would be beneficial for people to motivate them to get job interviews and feel good about themselves. And I wasn't even thinking about the aspect that the medical community brought to me, that it would cut down on infections from the cuts and sores that they get exposed to. One people group that there doesn't seem to be a lot locally for is those 18 to 25 aging out of youth groups in foster care. And there's a local organization we work with called Hands of Change. They have great passion for reaching out to the young people and doing community projects. We have experience with helping people from the foster system. If some were in better shape physically, they would be able to hold down their jobs better, but they've kind of been bounced from house to house to house, and they haven't really had that mentorship to get where they need to be to get out of foster care and hold down a job. So it's kind of a gap in life skills, if you will. So putting a full gym that would be free to them to help themselves with their physical needs and just be the best, the healthiest that they can would be a priority. Even getting people help with homework and mentorship so they feel mentally prepared when they go to school, not anxious. We know the health of a child involves so much more than just the absence of disease. So the buildings would be used to facilitate many aspects of that, from food, mental health, mentoring. Our desire is to steward every resource well and do all we can to see people fully restored, healthy, and functioning. The Bedoya building has the potential to be a great transition facility for those seeking to change their life for the better. There currently isn't much for the youth, but it would be an incredible opportunity for local youth resources, mental health and beyond. We don't have an everyday soup kitchen right now, but we give snacks and emergency food and do what we can. The first Tuesday of the month, we do community meals. It started out just helping a few, and it's turned into a large monthly gathering to encourage unity in the community and those face-to-face conversations. Because a lot of times when you talk to someone face-to-face, you actually agree on a lot more things and have a lot more same goals than when you are arguing on social media. Or it's just, we've seen a lot of good come out of people having that opportunity to, when we started was when this media was just posting cities burning down and, you know, it was a lot of craziness. And it really was on my heart to just, if people could talk face to face. We're so much more alike than we are different. We have so much more of the same goals. And so that has been something that kind of started with a small group and has just grown and grown. One of my favorite ones was the one we did in the pavilion. So I do love this area because it was able to bring a lot of people groups together and make them feel comfortable. We've been very humbled and blessed by all the community support. When everything got shut down for COVID, we had probably at the drop of a hat, 75 to 100 volunteers come out and help us give away food when Disney's hydro farms were still growing, but Disney was shut down. So all of a sudden it was like, well, there's 5 semi-loads if you can come get them and give them out. And so that was really a blessing to have that much support. We are just learning as we go. We really love community and we love partnering with people. Like I said, you know, like the pregnancy center, they do what they do so well. Like I would never try to recreate it, but I would love to. Sometimes you go to donate there and they don't have space to keep things. I would love to say, well, we have a room, we could have an overflow, or we love to not make it about ourselves, but to partner with everyone else. I know Hands of Change has a lot of the same visions and they've done awesome things with the youth, and I think some of them are here. So that's all I have to say right now. I think you have something to say, right?
Yeah, and you'll see on the bottom of our proposal, we added other buildings for youth activities, so wanted to have vendor with Hands of Change come up and speak about that part of it. Thank you. So I'm Page Rose Jermaine Terry, and I represent Hands of Change. And we've been fortunate to work with the worship room, and we have some of the youth here who will tell some of their stories about being involved with Hands of Change. And if you guys have questions, we have Azzy Henry and Helen Colley who will be able to assist me with answering those. So we are seeking your support in the acquisition of the former Lakeshore Rehabilitation Center, Medical Plaza North for Community Youth Services. This location is ideal for youth who may not have a means of transportation to the center. Hands of Change HOC was incorporated in June of 2014 as a means to provide community service while creating an atmosphere of inclusivity and diversity. At its peak, Hands of Change HOC was completing approximately 90 service projects a year, including soup kitchens, nursing home visits, Humane Society, Ronald McDonald House, law enforcement, veterans, and environmental causes. We recently assisted in preparing 12,000 meals for our local community, in addition to 500 books donated for preschoolers. The mission: to teach our youth the importance of education, loyalty, work ethic, and individual responsibility through various educational and community projects which promote a strong sense of self-awareness while providing an ideal environment in which our youth can thrive and grow to their fullest potential. We will also be dealing a lot with our youth mental health, and we will have licensed therapists on hand to assist us with that. Our vision is to construct an organization where our youth can learn value life lessons which are essential to their development into adulthood. Create an environment which promotes trust and support in times of need, encourage the educating and understanding of various cultures, create a safe haven for all youth while teaching empathy and compassion through community service, preparing youth with necessary life skills to thrive in the job market. Our top priorities: providing assistance throughout the community to those in need, i.e. senior citizens, veterans, soup kitchens, etc. Intervene in the lives of at-risk youth through mentorship via positive peer interaction, resulting in a sense of empowerment and belonging. Partnering with local schools and various individuals in an effort to bring an end to bullying within public schools and the community as a whole. Partnering with local businesses in an effort to receive donation funding for group missions and activities. The organization layout, I think we decided on our age range to be 8 to 16 years of age. And we're going to start operating, I think, 3 days a week initially. And as we gain our footing, we will expand to 5 days a week. And the type of programs we want to provide are mentorship, tutoring, education life skill classes for individuals ages 18 to 25, community service projects, engagement in community relations,
and cultural enrichment activities. Are there any questions? You think?
Yeah, do they have some of the kids that were gonna say anything?
These are some of the children that have went through Hands of Change program. We're requesting one of the buildings for that program, but we are tied together.
We've been using the worship room as our place for the kids, but it's not an area for kids really, but we've been using it. So we're seeking a building for.
Well, it's very nice to meet all of you. I'm Helen Jeremy. I've known Miss Helen since I was 4 years old. Hasn't changed was a group that started back in 2014. The reason we started is because we wanted to share more love and positivity out there in the world. I was so grateful to be part of this group. This group changed my life for the better, to be honest. During school, I had issues with people bullying me and making me feel bad about myself. But this group helped me overcome that. I felt so loved and helped by all these people. Me, all the friends I made within this group, I'm just so grateful for them to be part of my life. Together, I like to see us as one big family. All of us working together to bring peace, prosperity within the community. Doing these projects, I feel good. Going around helping out within the community, it feels really nice. And I'm a big-hearted person myself. I enjoy every group project we have done up till now. With that being said, HOC will always have a special place in my heart. I was 13 at the time when the group started. And now here I am, 21. Don't look, I look so much younger. I tried with doing that, but I like going around being positive, having faith in a lot of people. I'm someone who's if I see someone hurting or upset, I'm the one I'll go over there, comfort them, make them feel better about themselves, let them show them that there's still faith and there's good people out there in the world. I have many friends who've been depressed like me. And I sat down and talked to them a lot when I see them sad. It's a good feeling when you know you have friends who actually care and who will always support you through tough times. As for me and my friends, I'm grateful to have all of them. So all I really can say is HOC, we're all about giving back and helping out within the community. And honestly, I just would like to thank all of you for taking time to listen and hear us out. And thank you for your consideration.
I'm Rebecca. I go by B, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about my experiences and Hands of Change. I've been going on there off and off since I was about like 12, 13. But no matter how long I was away and no matter when I came back, there was always people that cared about where I was going in my life and what I was doing. It didn't matter how long I was away. It was always, we're here for you. I didn't have the best childhood. You can ask anybody that knows me. I had it really rough. I won't go into detail. But Hands of Change taught me that there's way more to life than what you're going through at the time that you're starting. There's so much light in the world. Miss Helen always said that be the change that you want to see in the world. And I think everybody that's been in Hands of Change hears that little voice in their head, which is Miss Helen saying that same phrase over and over and over again. Sorry, I lost my place. Hands of Change is the type of organization that shows that not everything is so dark and scary. Like you feel isolated, you feel like nothing's really gonna help. But Hands of Change is always there to give you the shirt off their back, to give you food in their fridge. And if we had a home base, if we had a building, it would really ensure that more people would have that light in their life that Hands of Change showed me, showed so many other people. It's really a positive experience to be around, and it's way more than community service. It's way more than soup kitchens. It's way more than anything. It's about community. It's about light. It's about positivity. HOC taught me to keep that kindness and compassion that I had whenever I was super little before the world completely broke me. To make friendship bracelets, to ask, are you okay? Do you want a friend? Do you need somebody to talk to? It taught me that no matter what you think somebody is going through, it might not be the truth, and you should always show compassion to others. So I really appreciate all of your consideration. Hands of Change really needs a home base where they can more efficiently reach youth that need it. Youth like me, youth like other people that have ever been in Hands of Change. Even if you go to one meeting, you're told that we're here for you. Miss Helen will always tell you, if you need anything, give me a call. No matter what it is, give me a call. I will be there no matter what time. She's really that person that taught me to just influence others in the most positive way possible. So again, thank you for your consideration. Have a
I'm here to read a message from my daughter Victoria. She could not be here tonight. She could not find someone to cover her shift. Victoria is 22 years old. She was here from the beginning of the Hands of Change organization. And she recently graduated with her bachelor's in speech language pathology, which she is currently working through certification and hoping to one day also contribute to health. In her words, this September will mark the 10-year anniversary of the beginning of Hands of Change charitable organization. It started with a simple birthday wish from a middle school age child asking not for himself, but for gifts to brighten the day of nursing home residents and children of the local hospital. That simple kindness became an inspiration to his friends and then to other classmates, and then kept on reaching out. Under the guidance of our mentors, we provided assistance throughout our community, assisting senior citizens and veterans, helping in the soup kitchen, cleaning up our parks, rallying against bullying, and providing support to our children in need. It taught us the importance of education, loyalty, respect, work ethic, and individual responsibility. The more I became involved in HOC, the more my passion for community grew. I knew that under the same guidance and outreach, other children in this community would share that same passion. I have been fortunate to find lifelong friends in this group. I have watched us grow into responsible, compassionate members of the community, and I have seen the positive impact that we can make with just a little we have been given. Those children who were part of the Hands of Change since the beginning are the same young adults who stand before you now, asking for the chance to provide our future generations with the same guidance, support, and opportunities we were given. By allowing Hands of Change to have this building, you will help extend the reach to so many more community members. You will be providing a safe haven for not only at-risk kids, but children who might just need a friend to talk to. It would be a place for community enrichment and outreach, to provide tutoring for struggling students, and a positive environment where every child can find support and thrive and grow to their fullest potential. Thank you.
I'm gonna be really quick.
We've got about 3 minutes. We're gonna have to take a recess so we can switch over our outdated technology in our tape. So we got like 3 minutes.
All right, I'm gonna be really quick. I was trying to tie it all together. So we work with, Hands of Change. They've been using our building with bringing the youth there and doing different programs and things that they do. But the main thing that, the goal of this is to, I know these buildings are for like health things, but we consider this as like a huge thing of mental health. Because a lot of kids nowadays are, I would say everyone in the world, everyone's stressed out, everyone's, on high anxiety and alert of, everything that's going on in the world today. So we thought, this group of kids being able to have, like Lake City has nowhere really for kids. All of our buildings are older than I am. That the skating rink, they say, oh, all these buildings are so old that we have for them, they don't go there. So we want to create a space where they can come. And like you said, we will have, therapists on hand to handle, we're gonna do multiple classes. We want to do fitness classes. We want to do emotional support classes. We're gonna do classes of getting out in the community, doing projects. We want to do fun classes, but just growing a community that works together in a place where the kids can come. We think this is a prime location spot. Also, some kids would be able to walk to this, program too. We're also getting the schools to bus them there for the after-school programs and things that we would do. But there's no place in our community for the kids that are going and getting help, a well-rounded, balanced help. We want them to feel comfortable with all of the leaders that are there that would be able to help them when they, like I said, the kids that tap out. We actually ran into a guy recently who was ready to commit suicide. He had tapped out of the system from foster care, and he just has nothing, nowhere to go. He has physical problems where if we had the means to help him, we could get him mentally a better place, but also physically in a better place because he can't keep a job the way he is right now. And so there's so many spots, areas that are missed that people don't realize. If we had this building for the youth, it would be a well-rounded organization where we could help them with their physical needs, their mental needs, emotional helps and support. And we want to do this to be a long-term thing. It wouldn't be just, after you reach this age, you're done. We'd have, people stay in contact with them to make sure that they are, there's so many life skills and lessons that we have that we want to teach. And it even goes, like you said, 18-year-olds to 25, we're going to have night classes for, them too, to be able to do things. So it's a lot of programs that we have within this organization. And so I just wanted you to understand more of what we were talking about.
With that, we are going to take a brief 5-minute recess and we'll convene at 6:45.
Certainly not sorry.
Let's go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Sorry about the interruption there.
No problem. Thank you for, wanting to continue. We'll try to make it short, and not hold everybody up all night. But, a lot of what Change is doing also goes along with what the worship rooms and initial intentions of back when we originally submitted this is to keep people from ending up in the place where we are meeting them with their needs, where they're on the street. And then we want to bring people out of that lifestyle back into normalcy. But of course, when you partner with a group that like Hands of Change that can stop that from happening long before they end up in that trap, we like to do that. So Ellen, you have some things to like share. What your group-
I always say the
They're doing
kids say it best, if we just shut up and listen. I just, one thing I want to say is years ago, before all these shootings even happened, I'll never forget, when there was a threat on media for Columbia, it was aimed at Columbia, South Carolina, that they were going to shoot up the white kids at school that day, And we had a Hands of Change meeting that day, and the kids came to the meeting, and they were telling me they were scared. And during this meeting, I found out one child had climbed in a locker. She actually had taken a string so she could hide. One child had climbed in the ceiling. One child had gone to the lunchroom. So this is many years ago. Our kids are dealing with these things on an everyday basis, terrified to go to school. I called the resource officer while they were there, and we had a healthy conversation about it. And I explained to them it was a different county, and that hate is hate. And we just, you had to make that choice. Actually, the next morning when I took my son, I talked to him whether he felt safe. It would ultimately be his decision. And he chose to go. And even as I drove away, I broke down because, that concern is in the back of your mind. Is one person going to act on one statement? But the importance of being there for those kids through those times is immeasurable. And now we have those kids wanting to give back to other kids. And that's what this program is about. It doesn't stop. It keeps giving. We're meeting with law enforcement this week. We have youth dying in this community. I have kids that were in my program that I have seen that are involved in something that breaks my heart. And this child made a bad choice. And what's happening to him should not be happening. There should be more resources there. He hadn't even talked to a defense attorney last time he heard. And I'm not saying what he did was right, but I'm just saying that we have to, like where there's change, we need to look at it and act on it before we put a child somewhere where they're more damaged. And, I say this as somebody who has dealt with children where I learned I couldn't save every child, because I was that person. And I had to learn that some affected the group more, and you had to, draw boundaries, and they might need supervised. But, we have to try, and we as a community have to do it. We've been blessed to work with the worship room. We've done art in the Mormon church, Baptist church. We've worked at the Lutheran church. We have Muslim, Jewish. We have every faith child, because we're going to show them that we can work together, and that's what we do. And as adults, if we can't do it, then we can't teach our children to do it. I really hope you invest in our children, because we've done thousands of hours of community service for 10 years out of the trunk of a car. Imagine what we can do when we get a building. If we're gonna get one.
Y'all have any questions?
Sorry.
So as far as buildings, what buildings are you?
The two primary buildings, of course, the other buildings are open and there's plenty of needs out here. But the two that we're specifically on tonight is the Bedoya building for resource and help, and also some shorter term homey people where we can get them to a place where they can get the help that they need. And then the other one for the youth is the primary, the physical therapy building. So
questions?
All right, thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you very much.
I have something that I would like to say.
Okay.
My name's Jennifer Tillery. I've been a member of this community for as long as I can remember. I've worked in social services in our community for approximately over 20 years. I've probably worked in every area of concern, from reentry, prisoners, employment. I've worked with abused children and families. I've worked with the homeless, housing, veterans. And I just wanted to share a little bit of information. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the ACEs study. So the ACEs study in a nutshell, I know that it's getting late in this meeting. You guys have heard a lot, but you just bear with me for a minute. The ACEs study was done about 20 years ago. And what they did is they took approximately 73,000 people from all walks of life, all ages, all economic status, some poor, some not poor, some substance, any women you could think of. There was no control group. And they did a study on their ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. So they had a questionnaire about what they had experienced as a child. And what they found when they did this study is that there are certain factors that will contribute to your health, your mental health, your relationships, your success as far as education, your success as far as where you work. But a lot of them was mental health and your physical health. So the way that I'm tying this in here is the reason they did the study was to find out if there were factors that contribute to your health as far as your economic, what you go through as a child. So once they found that information, and they did find correlation that when there were people that had experienced 4 out of the 10 targeted dimensions of the issues that they could have went through, they found that their risks started going up. And I'm not just talking about for your risk of using drugs or your risk of being in violence. I'm talking about your risk of heart attack, your risk of having other diseases. The study was actually done by the CDC. So how this correlates is once they found out that the higher their ACEs score was, the more likely they were to have these risk factors as far as health, mental health, relationship, employment issues, things like that, homelessness. So now looking at that information over the last, 10 years since the study, they've been working on resiliency. And the important thing to know is that even though all this happens, our communities have an ability to build that resiliency. And programs such as Hands of Change and what the worship room does and other programs can help implement those changes in resiliency. That's why it's so important to understand that we're not just talking about mental health here. We're talking about poverty. I don't understand how this lady could have said that we're not presenting information. Indigent is for poor, needy people. That is exactly what every proposal I've pretty much seen mostly. I've been in a few of the meetings and followed on minutes and stuff like that. We're proposing to help the indigent population. These are the ones that don't have the money to go, that are homeless, the ones that don't have the money to go to mental health counseling, the children that don't have the money to pay for some after-school program. It's not only gonna benefit the children and the homeless, it's gonna benefit the families that we go and pour into our community. It's not a secret that the mental health, along with a lot of other needs in our community, we have a lot of resources here. The need is higher than what we're able to provide. For whatever reason, we have a lot of people falling through the cracks. And it is our job as a community to stand up and find a solution. I know you guys have been hit with a lot of proposals. A lot of them sound pretty good. I mean, who knows, maybe the answer doesn't lie in one particular proposal. Maybe everyone could come together and find a solution that's going to help the community the best. Because I'm pretty sure most of the organizations, at least the ones that I know I'm a part of, would be willing to say, okay, well, maybe we can't get that building we asked for, but maybe we could somehow work together to find a solution. And as far as funding, I know, like Garrett was saying, that volunteers, I know it kind of sounds fairy-ish and up in the air, like, oh, we're going to let God lead us and believe in it. Yes, truthfully. But grants will come. We partner with a lot of people and organizations and companies that will provide. We believe in it. If we all just stand together, realize there's no denying there's an issue here in our community. Now the question is, are we going to be a part of the solution?
On Item number 2, the request for approval for final, the U.S. Treasury purchase.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. At our last trustee meeting, the trustees authorized staff to purchase $18 million in U.S. Treasuries. The purpose of this was to take advantage of increasing interest, particularly when compared to particularly compared to that which the certificate of deposits was paying. As I explained to you at the last meeting, securities are purchased in an open market. You don't go and say, I want to buy $10 million or $5 million or $4 million worth of treasuries. You pay based on what they're trading for at a particular moment on a particular day. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of what the final outcome was. And so what I'm here to tell you tonight is that we did a couple of things. One is I told you we were going to split between 2 different brokerages. We didn't split it equally, and the reason for that is we took the money out of one fund, and then we took money out of the second fund, and we let each fund represent itself as opposed to mixing money. But we did purchase on one of the funds $9,999,112.03. The yield on that is 3.021%. For those that want to vet it and be a stockbroker, that was 10,014 bonds that were actually bought. So that money will be placed, that interest will be placed in our operating account. And the way that will work is we'll get an interest distribution twice a year. So at the end of 6 months, they'll rake the interest that was earned off, return it directly to the operating account of the authority. And of course, that money will be used to fund operations, which we'll talk about later when we go over the budget. So that was the first purchase, $9,999,112.03. The second purchase was for $7,999,442.25. That yield is going to be 2.915%, slightly lower. And there was exactly 1 day difference between the 2 purchases. So it kind of gives you an idea of the market and how the market moves. But in either case, we were quite pleased with the yields. They're considerably more than what we were making off of standard certificate of deposits. U.S. Treasuries are one of the investments that you're allowed to invest in by law, just to remind you. And so we accomplished what we set out to do. And at this time, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that the trustees simply acknowledge the transactions that were made.
Just one quick question. I assume the fees stay the same?
Fees stayed the same.
Okay, I missed that part.
I'd like to make a motion acknowledging the final purchase of the U.S. Treasury denomination.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries.
Okay, also scheduled on tonight's agenda is an update concerning the Hope Bridges VA transitional housing proposal and also the Your ER Solutions LLC proposal. I can actually sort of talk about them simultaneous because they're both pretty much at the same stage. Last week, I had conversations with Hope Bridges and Hope Bridges representatives, and they were asking specific pointed questions, which I tried to answer. And the whole purposes of that is they were in the process of taking a lease, a draft lease, and responding to it, and in some cases making a counter proposal. So they were asking me some pretty specific questions. Basically, anything that dealt from a funding perspective, I simply represented the wish of the trustees. And in some questions. I simply gave what I considered to be my opinion as to what maybe the authority would be willing to do. But I expect this week to receive back a response. And hopefully from that, we can have another meeting, we being those you appointed to negotiate a lease. And we'll see if we can't finalize, at least in a very, let's call it substantially complete form, a lease for you to consider. Secondly, when it comes to your ER solutions, we're basically in that same mindset. We had conversations late last week. Doctors White and White, Michael and Molly, pretty much have walked through their proposed lease and what they are asking in terms of support from the trustees. They are in the process of putting pen to paper, and hopefully I can share that with the committee appointed to look at that lease. So right now, the ball is in both of their courts, but I hope that that soon shifts back to us, where we can put some final review on it, and at least in a substantial form, get it back in front of the trustees where you can start making some final decisions.
And I'm not saying that I'm under the impression that it would it be, but I would like to say it on record, and maybe you can tell them this is my expectation. Anybody else can join me if they like, but I would like to have like a fairly concrete update at our September next meeting. I think especially with Hope Bridges, it's been a couple of months since we've talked about it. So I think another 30 some odd days should be sufficient to have some sort of plan anyways that we can discuss, so we can make a decision one way or the other. I know that your ER solutions proposal is a little bit newer, but if at all possible, I'd like to put the pressure on you and them and the attorney and CPA and try to get this rolling.
Yeah, I have no issue with it, Mr. Chairman. In fact, I've already told them that we need to try and resolve it before the end of this fiscal year. So technically, you're saying the same thing that I've already communicated.
Is there anything that is from your employment status as far as being part-time executive director of the authority that's holding you back? Do you need additional hours?
No, I'm fine with the hours. Turnaround time, though, is not fast. It doesn't happen fast. And I'm sure that they're getting counsel for some of the things that they're discussing. In fact, I know they are. And so it's not like it is, day-to-day turnaround on this information. But we have been working, and there has been quite a bit of conversation. So a lot of this is now water under the bridge. And I do think it's time to try to bring it to some conclusion.
If you need to tell them you're under heat, consider it. You can say it's from me. I'll be the bad guy.
You got it.
We have not received any contracts then.
No, but that's not necessarily by default. It's more by design, because they were told right up front what the sunshine laws require in terms of disclosures and what becomes public record. And we're kind of letting them determine when they feel comfortable releasing whatever it is they want to release, as opposed to us. But we were very transparent right up front. We said, look, what we do is subject to disclosure, and what you give us, if we're asked as a public record, we will submit it. So that has sort of kept, I think, a lot of drafts down to a minimum, but through conversation, we kind of know what's in them. So
questions, comments?
No, I agree with you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Williams. I know you're doing everything possible because I've had the opportunity to sit in those meetings, and I appreciate you and Mr. Coberline and Mr. Powell's input and diligence on this issue, but I know we are having a special meeting the end of September 26th, I think it is, or can we, and I know you said the end of the fiscal year, which is like 5 days left, but yeah, I would agree, Mr. Chair, we need to let them know that that's 6 weeks out. They should be, yeah, enough time.
I think, Mr. Kennedy, I'm gonna shoot for the 12th. The 12th is our regular trustee meeting. The 26th was actually a budget hearing, the second final budget hearing. I don't know that I'm sure we could, I just don't really want to mix the two. So let's shoot for the 12th, if at all possible. That gives us approximately 4 weeks.
I also know that in the discussion that the committee has had with the ER solutions, there was discussion about the 2-story building also. Could that be something that the multi-specialty would be interested in along with ER solutions? Or?
No, we've already vetted that as an option.
Okay.
And it's already been rejected. But
Okay.
now the 2-story, what we call the Women's Center,
Yes, sir.
is the facility that the urgent care center, your ER solutions, is basically negotiating.
Okay. One story. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Just only brief.
You mentioned these two. What about Meridian and Florida Gateway College? What's their current status with wanting the buildings?
I can't speak to Meridian, Florida Gateway College. I think what my instructions were is once we have a plan for the utilization of the buildings, we are going to look at the possibility of a real estate donation to the college for the purpose of a downtown campus. Not to say that that's been approved, it hasn't, but that's the idea, to look at that.
In Meridian?
The only comments I can recall about Meridian occurred when Meridian presented or right after they presented. And what my understanding was is that everybody agreed with the need for behavioral health care. And we would like in some way to find a way to support that, but there was no specifics that I recall given.
If I might add, I think the board asked me also to talk briefly with the college, which I did with Mr. Pinchak, who is the executive director for the foundation. That's been, good gosh, 2 months now. And without getting the cart ahead of the horse, our discussion was brief, but his comment was, yes, they were interested.
Okay. And just for everybody's information, that was the reason I was sent to the city council meeting, and we asked for the lots that were deeded to the city for a city hall, which does have a reverter clause in the deed to be returned early. The city acknowledged and understood the reason why the request was made, but they wanted to finalize their city hall plans first before they considered that for action. So we're sort of in a wait period for that.
I think in a couple months, we should probably go back and ask them again.
They'll probably have it figured out by then.
Any other questions on these updates?
I would like to ask that our attorney find out, give us legal opinion on renting public property to faith-based organizations. Is this acceptable and legal or not? So I'm requesting that from Mr. Copeland. I think what they're asking for is wonderful, but I just want to make sure we're within our legalities.
Thank you.
Want to discuss the RFP for legal services for the budget workshop?
We can. Responses are due in 1 week. They're due on the 15th. We have not yet received a response. However, I am being told, at least verbally, on the streets of Lake City to expect at least 1 response, if not 2. The word I'm getting, Mr. Chairman, is Fred could do it, most anybody could. So I just couldn't resist. But anyway.
I'll second that if that's the motion.
My question is simply this. If we do receive a response on or before the 15th, would you like for me to schedule a special meeting in order to address that? Or would you like for me to simply put it on the September 12th regular agenda?
If we had a special meeting, then we could also bring in the other information from the 2 that you're putting pressure on.
If it's ready, if it's ready that soon, but.
Could we do it on the 26th also?
Of September?
Do,
Oh, no.
do what, Mr.?
Regarding the RFPs for the legal.
You could, but honestly, I think the sooner we address that, the better, because you have the obligation of negotiating the contract, getting all of that done. And I'm very much aware of what Fred has indicated his desire and timeline was. And so I'm getting a little bit concerned if we don't do it quickly, we get behind.
I would be okay with, what does our September meeting look like? Is it so far?
I don't think that there's anything on the September meeting that is of all that
Discussion of the updates on the proposal?
until that is added. I don't think there's anything. In other words, I don't think the budget hearings are substantial because we're not really levying a millage and things of that nature. There's discussion to be had, but it's not as if you're adopting a millage and those things.
I would be okay with, if we have a proposal before calling a special meeting.
Okay.
As long as it fits everybody's, I know we're still in quotations.
What seems to be the drawback for RFPs for that?
I do. I mean, I'm sitting here and made a joke at Fred's expense, but the simple truth is there's very limited people out there who have the expertise that you're seeking. These are special districts. You have to have some knowledge of those. And I mean, there's just not a lot of attorneys who specialize in those areas.
Is it that or the time constraints about attending meetings and stuff?
I can only answer that from the very limited conversation I have. That does not seem to be an issue at all. Now, there is, and in both cases, those that spoke to me wanted to know if there would be a problem if the firm was hired, and then the firm may send a different person at different times, though there would be one member of the firm who would be the primary. And I said, no, in fact, it happens now, on occasion. When Fred can't be here, we get senior, and so on and so forth. So if I'm to understand, Mr. Chairman, if we have a response to the legal RFP, and if there is reason for us that we can call a special meeting and do another item also, such as we have a draft contract or something of that nature, you want me to call the special meeting?
So yeah, if it fits everybody's schedule. Yeah.
Okay. I will I will remind everybody, when we did the RFP for legal, we sort of attached what we thought would be the expected agreement and, or mostly in a substantial form, the expected agreement that the selected party would sign. So I didn't want to give the impression that you're going to start from ground zero in negotiating a contract. We said, here's a standard contract. This is basically what we would expect you to sign. So, but nonetheless, I think with Fred's timeline and his schedule, sooner the better.
Normally at the beginning of the meeting, you mentioned, do you need to speak on this item?
No, Dale answered the question. I would just suggest having it at the September meeting rather than a special meeting. You know, what's 1 week gonna make a whole lot of difference. It's going on the 12th. Thank
Budget workshop.
Mr. Chairman, you have a supplemental handout, several pages. First of all, this was just distributed. You're not being asked to approve this tonight. What I am wanting you to understand is this is how the budget that you will see on the 12th, this is how it's been prepared and why it was prepared that way. But again, because this was just distributed, you're not being asked to give any or make any act of approval on these items tonight. But I wanted you to have them in advance of the 12th, where you could sort of understand what thought process went into preparing the budget. Obviously, Mr. Powell could not be here tonight. So I think the easiest way for me to present the budget to you and to the public is to really go through and sort of explain the methodology that was used. And once you understand the methodology, the numbers speak for themselves. So it's kind of that way. First of all, on the revenue side, real quick, ad valorem, we didn't levy an ad valorem. You basically levied 1/10,000th of 1 mil, which is 0.0001. I think countywide that would generate $300. It's primarily a placeholder, and it was never intended to be anything but a placeholder, and we've discussed that. So there is no ad valorem levy of any consequence proposed for the coming fiscal year. The good news is like unlike the past 2 years where you've literally been operating from the pre-payment of the lease from when CHS left, you're going to see that with your decision to buy securities and to improve the interest income of the authority, we're generating a substantial amount of interest. And while it was not cover all the operating expense, you've substantially closed that window. And in fact, you've closed it enough that whenever the decisions are made concerning the buildings and we may get into a lease revenue position, the lease revenue will basically eliminate any subsidy. So you're getting close to the point where revenues generated outside of ad valorem would pay for your operations based on the expected budget. So I think that's good news. I think it's certainly a whole different position than you've had the past 2 years. So having said that, we have been recommended by Mr. Powell, who of course is our external auditor, to consolidate some of our funds. I think now we have 5. He's suggesting 3. I discussed it, of course, with Sonia. Sonia has no issue with it. I have no issue with it. And I actually included in this packet Mr. Powell's letter, which clearly explains it. So we're going to have an operating fund, and we're going to have a medical fund, and we're going to have a building fund. And everything will be within those three. And it should be a lot easier for the public who may not work with this on a daily basis to better understand it. In preparing the budget, I wanted you to understand that I do expect that you're going to consider changes in our medical assistance program. I think that we need desperately to move more towards what others are doing, such as Shands teaching hospitals and other facilities similar. I think it's been a long time since we've been able to really look at our medical assistance program. It was all incorporated as part of the lease, which has existed for years. But I think when you begin to look at it and understand, it's really not what is being done in the market. And I think that's been a problem for us. So the medical assistance program, I think, will change. And in doing so, I think it opens the door for additional assistance that we can provide. Please remember, 11% of the population of this county is considered to be indigent. And we use a 200% poverty guideline. So a lot of need. We've got to find out how we can best assist with what we have available for that. Now, having said that, we go to the campus buildings. We talk about the hospital itself. The hospital is the elephant. It takes all the money. The sooner we can get somebody in, the better. We're working diligently toward that. We just had an update about that. So for the purposes of the budget, what I did is, not knowing exactly when we may be able to lease that building, I went ahead and put 1/4 of 1 year expenses in the budget. So basically the hospital, we're budgeting enough money to run it through the end of the calendar year, not the fiscal year, the calendar year. If it gets leased sooner than that, that's great. You just have budgeted but non-expended monies in your budget. You can move it out at the end of the year. You can move it out before the end of the year. But that's the way I addressed the actual hospital. Now, I do have a footnote in the material I provided you that if for some reason the lease doesn't work and you have other designs as to what to do, we may have to amend the budget to put money in to do that. So obviously, if it got to the point you wanted to raise the building, you're going to have to come back, do a budget amendment, and amend money in. You don't have it in this budget. The 2-story women's center I mentioned earlier in the update, that's the one that's being negotiated with by the doctors White and White. And what I've done there is, number one, is that building has some deficiencies that has to be corrected. Those deficiencies have been there since CHS moved out. They're not new. We knew about them from day one. We just chose not to fix them because we didn't know what was going to happen to the building. So we have that. In addition, I do think that for that service to be provided at a level that you're going to require, you're probably going to have to do some form of rental subsidy, at least early on. And so I took care of both of those, both the capital and the operating, in the coming year budget, and I will show you that. The physical therapy building, likewise, I put money in for some capital improvements. These issues were there when CHS left also. Now, whether we actually expend the capital money for the Reyes building or not will depend on whether we find an occupant. But I put the money in expectation that we will. The building that you're in here, the admin building, and also the record storage building, is fully funded for a year. But if for some reason we should vacate this building and this building should be used for other purposes, then you can eliminate the expense of this building and you will be able to add to the lease revenue. Potentially, just depends on what you do. But not knowing, not having a crystal ball, not having a magic wand, which none of us have, These were my best guesses as it related to facilities. Now, the thing that I also did in this proposed budget is I am requesting that the trustees consider an increase in pay for both Sonia and Cynthia and Dwayne. I have attached what I believe is sufficient justification for that. And I did not have this information at the time I prepared this, but just prior to this meeting, I received a phone call in Columbia County. They have placed in their floor budget an additional $3 per hour per employee increase. And of course, last year, they gave a $2 per employee per hour increase.
If I can interrupt for just a moment, I'm just going to say I'll pack my dinner that night if I have to. It has been over 2 years since the employees have had a raise. I'll debate all night. So get your figures and your facts straight, and I'll debate all night. Because we're going to give these employees raises.
Well, they're very deserving. And to give you an example, let me talk about my position as executive director. You would know this, Miss Laurie knows this. I don't know if Stephen was here at the time, nor I know Don wasn't. When I was hired as executive director, you wanted a part-time director. And my job, what you specifically asked me to do, was to make the executive director's position de minimis. You basically wanted me to start training the Sonias and the Cynthias and me to butt out, except when obviously there were things that needed to be done, potentially a budget, special needs, things of that nature. So I would be playing a very minimal role as executive director. None of us foresaw what was coming. We did not know that CHS was going to leave. We did not know we would have a thing called COVID. We did not know we would go a year without a trustee. All of those sort of complicated the original plan, which was to make the executive director de minimis. But that plan has not gone away. It might have run into a roadblock. We might have stumbled because of things beyond our control, but that's still the plan. Now, right before CHS left, I had already advised Cynthia and Sonia that I was about ready to advise you that they were ready to take that next step, and I was going to take a step back. Well, that changed because of CHS leaving, but that is now sort of water under the bridge, but that is still my goal. And so they have taken it upon themselves to do independent work. They've taken it upon themselves to ask questions. I think either one of them would tell you that they know infinitely more about the processes of a special district, particularly. They didn't need any help qualifying people. They knew that. But as far as what a lot of what the executive director does, they've learned. And I think that they're well capable of doing a lot of that on their own. So when we get these buildings leased and when we get these things established, I think they can do a lot of what I'm now doing. And that is exactly what I was charged with doing with them. So I think not only is there an inflationary issue here with their wages and all that go with it, I think there's just the issue of they haven't been properly compensated for what they've done to expand their knowledge and their abilities. So I think that needs to be considered when you are thinking about a raise for them. And that was long-winded, I know, but still, it's justified. So having said all of that, you get to these pages, which is actually your budget. And to make it easy, I went ahead and just highlighted a few things. If you're looking at the operating fund, right off the bat, you see where I highlighted the interest income. We put $300,000 of that interest income, which used to come now from prepaid lease. That's now interest. So you've got a fixed amount of money drawing interest. We're talking about interest only here. I did make a note down there in the expenses about the D&O insurance, the director and officers. You recall, we had a huge increase for the prior year. I hate to tell you this, but based on the emails I've seen, they were like, we're going to have another increase, and we're fussing. I'm fussing. That's ridiculous. We got the increase before because we had the receivership issue, which is long gone. We're arguing this, but nonetheless, I just wanted to let you know, we plugged in the same amount, but we do have other powers that think we should allocate more. We're arguing. On the second page of the operating fund, you'll see where I highlighted the wages, and what I did for the purposes of budget preparation and budget preparation only is I just added 10% to what the wages were. What you do may be up, what you do may be down, but I had to have something in order to prepare the budget with, so that's the number I stuck in. Flip over, we get to the healthcare services fund. Here's where I put the remainder of the interest, $240,000. I mentioned the indigent care program changes earlier. You can see that I increased that with the expectation we're going to increase participants, and we will probably have to subsidize an urgent care center. So there are different ways to do the subsidy, but that's where I put the money for that purpose. Then, of course, if you look, you have the building administration fund. And what I pointed out to you were the monies for the renovations that I spoke of earlier in the summary. It's kind of easy to compare when you know what the changes were and why they were put in there. Again, this is not done with firsthand knowledge. There's a lot of guesswork that went into this because I do not have a crystal ball. I'm only going by what I believe and can foresee possibly happening. But it is your budget. Budgets can be amended. We're making the very best effort we can with the understanding that you will be able to amend it as needed. Now, if you got anything that I might have missed, I will do my best to try and incorporate it before we prepare the documents for our first hearing, which will be September 12th. And you can call me individually about that. But honestly, I think we put a lot of thought into it. I think what we're forecasting is reasonable given what we know up to this point. That's really what I have to say about it. Oh, and by the way, you'll notice I prepared the budget with the 3 funds, not 5. So.
That's just
yeah, let me tell y'all what else about that. I mean, there's a lot in here that you don't realize. $50,000 of that women's center is in an elevator. They changed the laws on elevators. You got to change out the control panels. Don't matter that yours is fine and working. It don't matter you got a license. It doesn't matter that everything, it's got this complete history. We've got to make, based on a change in state law, some improvements to the elevator. They wanted 20 grand to come over here and just give us an estimate. Again, Sonia and Cynthia were able to assist and make sure that they didn't charge us, but it's not a good market for those things. But we do have legal requirements that we did not previously have. So when you look at that number, $50,000 of that's in there for one elevator.
I'm just asking, do you think that's enough money?
That was where I was.
Oh, you don't think we got enough?
Can Sonia and Cynthia do the work? And we've asked them to pay before and it wasn't good.
Pretty good.
Not right now.
This question today.
I know, we're not doing questions.
But look, I had Dwayne come up with the estimates. We're talking about relamping that building, repainting that building, doing a lot of work on the exterior of that building, the women's center.
Okay.
We're talking about parking lot improvements, signage, all those things, and we got numbers for them. Dwayne did most of that footwork. But I think what he did was not just guessing. I think he actually tried to find market prices. So if the work extends beyond that, and it's not just for the women's center, it's whoever, or just not for your ER, it's whoever may use that building, then it's not going to be enough. But for what we've scoped out to do, we think it's reasonable.
Did you take into consideration the dental in conjunction with the health department?
No, no, ma'am.
Because we're already committed to that.
It was not that we forgot it. The problem that I had is I'm not sure where that's going yet. That's the issue. But there is no money allocated in this budget to make ready for a dental lab. None.
I would like to see an adjustment for that because we had previously voted and committed ourselves to it.
And again, it's not something we forgot, and I'll certainly include it just as soon as I know where it's going. But again, if you have any questions about how we prepared the budget, what we added into the budget and why, please ask me. We'll try to get final documents out at least a week prior to the 12th of September. These will be online if anybody would like to get a copy of them. And if we should learn more than we know now before then, I'll certainly amend the budget before it's published to incorporate that. So we're sort of in a learning curve here, and we'll adapt as we go.
Questions, comments? Concerns?
You're welcome.
Board member comments, Ms. Chansey?
None. When you do speak and put the fire under Hope Bridges, please emphasize that Brandon is the pen.
Pleasure.
I do have one question before, because I may not get. There was an ACEs study. Spell that for me.
ACE, and for adverse childhood experiences.
ACE.
Extra letter in here.
It's one of my passions.
Glad I asked because I had it spelled wrong. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So for the consent agenda, we amended our rules, and I can now say that we've exhausted the agenda. I'll adjourn the meeting.
We can do, all right.